Welcome to another great video. We're talking tax changes
Yes,
to
we are.
2025, things you should probably know. We got a couple of them. We'll start with the tax brackets.
Yes.
For income tax, they get adjusted every year, usually for inflation to
Mhm.
prevent what they call bracket creep. And they
Yes.
did the same thing in 25. Here are the look for the federal numbers this year.
Yeah. So for January 2025, inflation has increased 2.7% on a federal basis. So that means if you take a look at the brackets from 24 to 25, they've gone up by that 2.7%. So even if you look at the first bracket, which is about 55 and change, it's now 57 and change. And
Yeah.
of course, every other bracket has followed the same suit on all 5 brackets. Now, the percentage you pay hasn't changed by any stretch of the imagination, but you're allowed more inside of each bracket sort of scenario to be able to get that sort of inflation adjusted number.
And unfortunately, that's not the only income tax you pay. There's going to be the federal level. Then every province or territory will add their own amount on top of that.
That's right.
You pay the combination of the two on your income tax. And the provinces and territories, they can't make it simple. They do a mix depending on where you live.
Yep.
They adjust all the brackets, but how they adjust them varies. Some of the provinces, for example, like New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, Northwest Territories, they just follow the federal government. Federal government said 2.7, they move 2.7 as well. Other provinces use their own provincial inflation number. So, for example, Manitoba, it's 1.2%. In Alberta, 2%. In New Brunswick, 2.7. As I mentioned, Nova Scotia, 3.1. You can see the variance there in the table. Quick note for PEI. They didn't do it in 25 because they did a budget end of 24, and the budget made a whole bunch of changes when it came to tax brackets. So they didn't do an adjustment in addition to all the changes they just did in their budget. But that gives you an idea of what's moving for the tax brackets. Effectively, regardless where you live, tax brackets going up, which is good. So you can make a little more money and still pay the same income tax rate. So it's a bit of a benefit. But there's a few other changes we need to know about.
Yeah, and one of the other key changes that we got to look at is the basic personal amount. Now, there's a basic personal amount you're not paying taxes on, and unfortunately, the government came out a little while ago and decided that, well, we're going to divide that in two. There's a minimum amount you won't pay tax on, then there's a maximum amount you won't pay tax on. And it basically depends on how much money you've made. So if you're within that, sort of third bracket or less, then basically what you're doing is you get the maximum, that 16,129 that they've got in the new number. If you're over that bracket up to the 253,000 bracket, basically you're at that minimum number, and then it works its way around to basically zero after that. So you have to know what your basic claim amounts are for where you pay federal tax and how that works. And again, this is only the federal portion. There is a provincial contingent as well, isn't there?
Yeah, it gets a little complicated when you're adding them all up. But the idea, the basic personal amount, is you're allowed to make a certain amount of money and you don't pay tax.
That's
on
right.
that basic personal amount. It's like a tax-free amount, which is fantastic. And then that amount increased in 25. The federal level increased, but they had to do it in a complicated way. We have this minimum and a maximum. And then each province has their own basic personal amount, which applies to their provincial income tax as well. All of those numbers changed in 25. You can see them on the list here as well. Alberta's got a big one.
It's the nicest one.
Biggest across Canada. So you can make up to $22,000 in Alberta in 2025 and you pay no provincial tax. You'd still have to pay some federal tax there. And then Yukon followed the federal government doing the minimum maximum thing, depending on how much money you make. The level of exemption you get changes. But every other province has their own. So if you take, for example, in New Brunswick, the first 13,396 you pay no tax at all, no provincial, no federal. Then over 13 up to say 16, you'd pay just provincial, no federal, and then over 16,000 you pay both. So that's how the basic personal amount works. And in 25, that level increased across the board, federal, and then in every province and territory as well. We'll get to a few more tax changes in 2025. Before we do, people often have questions when it comes to taxes and everything else financial planning related. How do they get a hold of us?
They go to chatwithclintonandkevin.com. By all means, send us your questions, whether it is on your taxes, whether it's for 2024, what you want to know that's new for 2025, or any other financial matters that you want to know about. Please send us a message there. It goes directly to Clinton and myself. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Hopefully, we can answer those questions for you. And if you want anything a little more in depth, we're more than pleased to be able to talk to you. But that's not the only new thing. What else is on the website, Clint?
There is a newsletter, which of course you can sign up for. If you like these videos, newsletters, similar type of content, little tips and tricks when it comes to taxes, financial planning, retirement, all those items directly in your inbox. So if you go to beckerorr.com, it prompts you for the newsletter. You can sign up if you like, and you get your free weekly newsletter that way. Talking taxes, we had a couple of
Yes.
benefits, changes that work in favor of folks. We have to look the other way. There's going to be a change that is not in favor, and that's going to be the carbon tax going up in 25.
That's the biggest one. As we've said, when the Liberal government initiated it, they were going to continue to increase it every year as they try to eliminate carbon so that we can get more and more of a green scenario. Well, again, they are doing it as of April 1st of 2025 to $95 a ton. And that will increase taxes on your gasoline by roughly 3.3 cents per liter. So again, they've gone up. If you're in the province of Manitoba, you had a little bit of relief on the provincial side, but that's come back in. And now in April, you're going to get a little bit more. The other thing that we have to look at is charitable donations. Now, there has been a little bit of a scenario with the postal strike that went on. The government is now allowing donations all the way to February 28th in 2025 to be applicable to 2024. This has never really happened. We've always had things where you can carry them forward, but you've never been able to carry back. Now with the postal strike, basically the first 2 months of the year, you are allowed to still make contributions to those that you want to donate to on a charitable basis, and you can apply them to your 2024 taxes.
Yeah, so the carbon tax, lots of political machinations. Who knows what happens there? But that is the rules as of now. It's going to go up in April. Charitable donations, that's good news.
That's good
The
news.
government effectively said, hey, the postal strike may have impacted charity, so I give people a little longer so they can make a contribution to the charity and they could use it on the 2024 return. A little bit of bad news is that capital gains tax. Now, technically, this came in 2024.
Yes.
But it would be applicable in 2025. CRA confirmed that just a few days back, or pardon me, in January, they made that confirmation that it would be applicable in 25 as well. A reminder, how the capital gains works is whatever your purchase price is. Let's use a cottage as a scenario. So you buy it at $6,000 and then you sell that cottage for, say, $400,000. Great, you made $300,000 on the cottage. That's the capital gain. Now, the old formula, half of that would be included in income, half would be tax-free. There's a 50% inclusion rate. That's what is changing. It'll now be 2/3 inclusion, but only for the gains above $250,000. So they do have a threshold there.
Yep. And again, this is applicable as of now. We know that there will be an election coming sometime soon. How this all handles itself out going forward, we won't know, but we only can give you what we know for tax changes for now. Of course, the other one that we have to deal with on that case would be the Bear Trust scenario.
Yeah.
Now, CRA has extended the exemption for reporting Bear Trusts for 2024 for the year. Again, unless specified by CRA, Canadians with Bear Trusts will not have to be or will not need to file the T3 or the Schedule 15 when they complete their 2024 return. This was something they were messing with over the course of the year, but based on the way things have gone, they decided, okay, well, we're going to leave this, we'll extend it through, and we'll go from that point. And that's an important one to know for anybody who still does have those Bear Trusts out there and what they thought the taxation was going to be on it.
Yeah, that was the mess last year.
Exactly.
We're going to file their 2023 tax return. What would be deemed a Bear Trust, how they had to file. It was a big mess. They ended up doing an exemption. They carried that exemption forward, so you don't have to worry about it for your 24 return as well. They did make some changes to EI, the Employment Insurance Program. Effectively, premiums went down ever so slightly.
It's just
They have this weird actuarial formula that determines a break even.
Yes.
And then as it came out, it was slightly lower than last year, 0.02%. So pretty much even. The smallest of decrease, but when it comes to taxes, we'll take any decrease. So workers now 1.64% compared to last year. Employers at 2.3%, slightly different numbers in Quebec. But the maximal insurable earnings went up. So the amount of income this applies to increased. So in 2025, it'll now be $65,700 of income where this premium would be applicable, which means in the end, you might pay a little more.
Yeah, so comparable to the 2024 maxes and contributions increased, basically you're going to be paying as a worker another $28.36 or an employer another $39.70. And of course, Quebec has different numbers for those ones as well, being on that separate sort of provincial thing. So these tend to be the tax changes that you're going to find. This is sort of our summary of what 2025 does have and what it's going to be offering you and what you can use for your applicable 2024 taxes.
We did not mention TFSAs, RSPs, OAS.
That's right.
Because we have done all of that in another video. We talked about all those nuances, details, as well as some important dates. So please click on that one. It's on the screen now, and we'll see you again very soon.
Take care.